Joining us now is a sports writer for the Detroit Free Press, Mick McCabe, who covers high school sports all across the Great Lakes State. Mick, thanks for joining us.
Sure, it's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you with us. We're in the thick of the high school football season here in the Detroit area, and plenty of really powerful teams this year. Some that are coming back and have been powerhouses before, and some that have kind of warmed back up. In particular, your number one ranked team, Warren De La Salle, looking very different this year than they maybe have the last couple of years, and really coming back to that top of the state, powerful kind of gameplay that has been so typical of De La Salle in the past. What is different with this team this year that's really setting them apart from the field and has them ranked number one in your rankings?
Well, they won the state championship last year, and they have almost everybody back. And the year before that, they lost in the finals to Mona Shores. So they've been on the verge of this for some time. And they have tremendous skill position kids. A quarterback is tremendous. A defensive end is just outstanding, a dominant type player. And they're really good.
Also on this list, of course, is Belleville. Belleville last year finally crossing the plane and winning that title against Rochester Adams. And for Coach Crowell and his team, having such a talented quarterback and a young quarterback too, and coming back with a really strong team, how much of a competitor do you believe Belleville will be in Division I? How tough do you think it is going to be for those other teams down the line competing in D1 to dethrone Belleville at the top of the hill?
It'll be very difficult. It won't be impossible. West Bloomfield, for one, could definitely give them an excellent game. But I've got them ranked number one for a reason, which means I think they're going to win a state championship. So anything less would be a disappointment.
We're joined by Mick McCabe. He is the columnist at the Detroit Free Press covering high school sports with us today on the Megacast, freep.com, to read his articles and more. Let's talk about those West Bloomfield Lakers. We, of course, are the home for West Bloomfield Laker football here. Our coverage of the Lakers and Clarkston on TV, radio, and streaming on Friday night begins about 6 p.m. with This Week in Laker Football, followed by the pregame show about 6:30, and kickoff is at 7 o'clock, civiccentertv.com/Lakers Mick, this Lakers team has been playing some pretty great football so far this season. Particularly, I look at week one, where we've typically in the past for these Lakers seen a slew of mistakes, particularly in the arena of discipline, pre-snap penalties, frustration penalties, and that kind of creeped up in week two. But this West Bloomfield team is really kind of looking back to be at a normal level that we saw of gameplay back in even the championship year and the runner-up year of 2017. What's different, in your opinion, about this West Bloomfield team this year than has been in past years that makes them so dangerous and potentially one of those teams that could compete with Belleville?
Well, I think that they've got some standout players and some dominating type players. They can dominate their position, and they're dangerous and speed kills, and they're very, very quick. And that is very difficult for most high school teams to contend with is speed like West Bloomfield has.
Yeah, my biggest question with West Bloomfield is going to be when you really have that dominant defense going up against you that can compete at the first level, but also has those lockdown corners and safeties. What are they going to be able to do to open up that offense then as you get later on in the season? That test could come this week against Clarkston. They're having a very good season so far. One loss in week one, a 7-point loss to Davison at the Big House. But other than that, last week, that's a pretty impressive showing against Rochester Adams at 45-35 victory for Coach Pinter in his first season. Is Clarkston football back?
Pretty close. They've got a terrific running back in Ethan Clark. And, boy, he just chews up the yardage. And Cole Dellinger might be the best offensive lineman in the state. We had him ranked the number 2 player overall. And he's really terrific. So they can move the ball on the ground. But Mike Hine, who's starting for his first year at quarterback after being a receiver and a defensive back last year, he's been a very pleasant surprise. It hasn't taken him long at all to readapt to that quarterback position he was back early in his sophomore year before he got brought up to varsity.
Yeah, he's been having a great season. Had a really nice game last week against Rochester Adams, over 200 yards passing, 100 yards also on the ground. It helps when you have weapons out there like Ethan Clark that also had a great game in the receiving game. Also, Cole Jarvis had a nice game on on both ends of the ball, the offense and defense. This is going to be a very competitive matchup on Friday night. Looking at this matchup from both sides of these teams, West Bloomfield and Clarkston on Friday night, given that it's in West Bloomfield, the way both these teams have been playing, the strength of their schedules so far this year, Mick, which of these teams do you believe has the edge on Friday night here in the OAA Red?
I think West Bloomfield will win, and it really has nothing to do with being at West Bloomfield. I think home field advantage in high school is almost non-existent. In the NFL, it's like 3 points or something like that. It's not like they're flying someplace and spending the night in a hotel and stuff like that. No, it's the same field. I mean, they went to Rochester Adams and won decisively last week. I think West Bloomfield has a little bit too much speed for Clarkston, and I think that'll be a real problem for the Wolves.
Now, I think that game's also going to come down to the matchups in the trenches too. You mentioned one of the best offensive linemen, if not the best offensive lineman in the state, in Dellinger for Clarkston, headed to Michigan State next fall, and then on the West Bloomfield side, Amir Herring headed to Michigan.
He's terrific. He's really good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, he is. He's excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be almost always won the trenches. I mean, if you can't block, you're not going to win. And if you can't get some kind of push defensively, you're not going to win either. So it helps to have dominating linemen for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge factor, Dellinger's play. And the other O-lineman for Clarkston, their play on Friday night against the West Bloomfield team that loves to attack in the backfield, but also has some really talented linebackers who are excellent in coverage as well, like Kari Jackson and Rock Harris.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
We're joined by Mick McCabe from the Detroit Free Press. He's their high school sports writer and contributor, joining us today on the Megacast. You can read his articles at freep.com. That's freep.com to read his articles from all across high school football. As you look across the state and across the divisions, who so far have been some of your surprises in terms of their performance this season?
Well, I don't know if it's a surprise to me because I had them ranked real high early, in the preseason, but Caledonia is not a team that anybody in Division I is familiar with because they've been Division II for a long time. But they're talented. Their backfield is excellent. Their quarterback is terrific. They're a team, and they run a different kind of offense a little bit. They're a team that I think will give people headaches in state playoffs. The same with Granville. They play that tight T that Canton has played forever. And Zeeland West has played for a long time. And if they get a lead on you, it's really difficult to play them. Now, if you can get up on them, that's a lot better because with the way they play, that tight T, they don't throw very much. So they have to come back on the ground. That's difficult to do if you're behind. Lapeer is a team that was good early on after the merger and then kind of slid back a little bit. Well, they're really good again this year. So they're a team in Division I that people have to worry about.
We're joined by Mick McCabe on today's edition of the Megacast. You can read all of his articles on high school sports at the Detroit Free Press, or you can visit him online, freep.com, for more information and to read his articles and others on high school sports right here in the state of Michigan. Mick, before we let you go, you wrote an article recently about a friend of yours that you had worked with at the Detroit Free Press, someone that you've known for a very long time who recently passed away. Can you tell us more about this article and about the man that it's all about?
Gene Guidi, terrific guy. I grew up 2 blocks from him, and he used to come over and play hang out with the 2 older. There were 4 boys across the street. 2 of them probably about 6-7 years older than us, and then he had 2 younger brothers who were born one day after me, and we knew Gene because he hung out with those guys. And one time, they were playing wiffle ball in the backyard. And we were being little idiots and ran through their game. And I accidentally stepped on the wiffle ball and crushed it. And Gene picked up the bat and chased me all the way home, swinging at my head. thank God I had some quickness back then, so I survived. And then my first day as a copy boy, on June 3rd, 1970, I walk in, and the very first person I see is Gene Guidi. And I was making sure there were no bats in the office because he would have finished the job. Now, we became very, very good friends. He left after a couple months, went up and ran Action Line, which was exclusive to the Free Press back then. And then when our horse racing writer left to go to some other paper, Gene came down from Action Line and was our horse guy because he loved the horses. And then he also went and when the horse racing, it didn't call for someone to be at the track every day. So he came in and they put him on the Tigers with Bill McGraw in 1984, which was a pretty good year to be on the Tigers. Yeah, but he also did college basketball. He could cover anything. He was a pro's pro.
Well, Mick, thank you for telling us more about Gene. Of course, you can read Mick's article on Gene Guidi by visiting Free.com, going to the sports section, and the article is entitled "Former Detroit Free Press Sports Writer Gene Guidi Dies at 79." Mick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.